Ultimately, we want to vote for one big, beautiful bill where we put the taxes in, we put everything in. We're going to have big tax cuts. We're going to have tremendous incentives for companies coming into our country and employing lots of people. It'll be, I called it, in a rare moment, one big, beautiful bill. That's what I like, and it seems to be that's where they're heading.
Well, joining me now, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House and Fox News contributor. Speaker Gingrich, one big, beautiful bill. It seems so easy, so simple, so beautiful, and yet it seems a little distant. What's going on?
Well, look, I think there's a difference in the House and the Senate. Speaker Mike Johnson's been very clear all along that he's for one big, beautiful bill. And he understands, from the standpoint of the House, that they have to get the tax cuts through by May or June in order to have the kind of economy that we need next year if we're going to keep control of the House.
Right.
So Speaker Johnson understands exactly what his job is, and he and President Trump are shoulder to shoulder. The Senate, for reasons I don't understand, but I never served in the Senate, I was a creature of the House. The Senate seems to want to do two bills, and the danger of that is because they're not going to do the tax bill first. I don't see, in terms of schedule, how they could possibly get two significant bills through by May or June. So the danger of the Senate approach would be that you'd end up not getting a bill till, say, October, which is what happened to Trump last time. And that meant the economy didn't grow, and that meant we lost 42 seats in the 2018 election. So there's a lot at stake here. Now, what's encouraging is that they have proven with the continuing resolution that they can pass something in the House with no Democratic help. I got one Democrat, I should say.
Right.
The Democrats were 213 to 1 against. They could then set it up so that they can pass it in the Senate. And since they're talking about reconciliation, it only takes 50 votes plus the vice president. So I think we just had proof this week that this strategy could work. I think it should work. And I think if you want to keep a Republican House, it is vital that the economy be booming next year, that people feel that President Trump is succeeding and that they want to reinforce him. They don't want to desert him. That's the key to the off-year election.
And to your point, I didn't think that Mitch McConnell and President Trump during that first term are always on the same page together. Like, for instance, that last package that went out to people went out after the election. You know, the last stimulus package, and that, to me, I think if they would have gotten that through the Senate before the election, I think Trump would have won that election. And there's so many lessons. Of course, we know the shellacking that both parties have been taking in midterm elections. I just don't understand, to your point, the calculus on not trying to make this happen or allowing it not to happen.
Well, look, to his credit, the new majority leader, John Thune, has worked very closely with Speaker Johnson and President Trump. And it was the team of the three of them that just got this particular continuing resolution through. With the Democrats had no impact on it. It's the most clearly Republican resolution, certainly in the last 20 years. And I think the fact that John Thune was able to work as part of a team it really says a lot, because you're right. In the President Trump's first term, he had a much difficult relationship with the Senate and the House, for that matter. Yeah. And now things seem to be, we're actually seeing a team being formed in a way that's very encouraging.
Yeah, and the voters want to see that, I think. I want to switch gears a little bit to something that you've also been sort of critical on, and this is the messaging. This morning we got the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. It was abysmal. And one part of that blew me away was people who've heard bad news about the programs, the government programs, DOGE and all this. We've never seen this kind of spike before. It's the greatest spike in the history of this thing going back a couple of decades. So the other side has done this effective fear-mongering, if you will. What's going on with Republicans? What should they be doing, particularly when it comes to the budget? Because you're not happy with the way they're messaging it, are you?
Well, no. I think, first of all, they have to get better at communicating what they're trying to accomplish. But the fact is, we just had a poll come in. We run a project called the America's New Majority Project. And we just had a poll come in last week. 81% of the American people believe that the government is corrupt. Now, if you have 8 out of every 10 people believing that the Washington bureaucracy is corrupt, I think it's pretty dangerous for the Democrats to decide they're going to bet on being the pro-bureaucracy, pro-waste and fraud party. And I think in that sense, in the long run, things will work out. You know, the fact is Elon Musk is a genius, but he's not necessarily a great communicator, and they're going to have to work it through. On the other hand, President Trump is an extraordinary communicator, and I'm pretty confident by the time we get to the summer, people are going to feel pretty good that what we're doing is the right thing.
Right.
But we're not going to get any help from the elite media, and we just have to recognize that. If we're going to win, it's because we're going to communicate intensely through our own systems and get to the American people with the facts of what are going on.
Newt Gingrich, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.